Billy Hume, the real reason why analog recording is better. And then in the thumbnail it says it's not about the sound. Bro, this video blew the f up, dude. This is crazy. You guys gotta see this. This is crazy. 28,000 likes, 500,000 views. Dude, bro, he's about, oh my god, dude, he's gonna pass me. That's crazy.
We've all seen how there's tons of analog versus digital videos out.
Bro, I like how like everybody is just making this. It's like they're like all being recommended like what they should make a video on. Like, oh, we gotta do a thing about vinyl versus digital. Vinyl versus digital is what's popular right now.
There, where people are debating which sounds better. And I've never taken much interest in any of that because I've felt like people are completely missing the point on why analog is better. And it has nothing to do with the sound. But it's something that took me years to understand. Now, I started recording on tape around 1978, working my way through...
It was something that took me years to convince myself of.
multiple multi-track formats until I bought this Tascam 1-inch 16-track reel-to-reel in 1988 for my studio, The Zone. I used it almost continuously for 12 years. And I worked on 2-inch 24-track machines at other studios all through the 1990s. But there were so many things that frustrated me about analog. Yes, I know that recording a hot level of tape and getting that tape compression is cool, and of course, analog smooths up those quick initial transients that are at the beginning of percussive sounds. But still, there was so much to hate about analog. It's noisy. Yeah, you could use
It's noisy.
Dolby or DBX noise reduction, but that made it sound like there was a veil over the sound. And no matter what kind of tape machine I was using, after I'd recorded something, it would sound different than the way it sounded
Nah, this guy's cool though, he's funny.
and I'd mic'd everything up, and that was the sound I wanted. So I'd have to counteract by EQing, usually boosting some treble or mid-range, but it was always a guessing game. And each time you ran or recorded a new track, a teeny bit of high-end would get erased from the tape. So if you're working on an album for months, by the time you got to mixdown, it sounded worse. Also, tape was expensive. I was spending
He knows his shit. He does know his shit, but this is also, at the end of the day, this is an opinion video.
$70 to $80 a reel, which after recording alignment tones, would leave me about 15 minutes of recording time, which meant recording an album was a lot of money for a lot of reels of tape. So when you could record and mix professionally completely in a computer, I was all in. More tracks, instantly recallable mixes, non-destructive editing. I was so...
Bro, instantly recalling mixes. Man, I remember using a board in engineering school, and that was a pain in the ass. You used to have to like write down the settings of everything, or they would have like a printout sheet, and then you have to mark the settings of everything. And then when you're recalling something, you have to set it all exactly how it was. It's a fucking pain. It's not an opinion video though. His point isn't Fidelity's workflow. That's still an opinion though. Saying that it has a better workflow, that's an opinion. Because I would say digital has a better workflow, and that's an opinion.
Oh, early into the game.
It's actually not really opinion, like recalling. Well, then that's proving the analog's worse. That's not.
That I was among the first to record and mix Billboard charting hits, totally
But let me hear what he has to say here, okay?
in the box, and I stayed there for years. It was a new frontier of technology and efficiency.
I don't know that he says better.
Time,
The title literally says better. Why analog recording is better.
Something was missing, and that we were all being driven to this rush assembly line production. I just wanted to get back to something that was creative and unique, which is one of the reasons I started this YouTube channel. But then two things happened. I went and got my 1-inch 16-track reel-to-reel from my other studio, The Zone, where it'd been in storage for almost 25 years. And I made a couple short videos about it as a curiosity from my past. And then I figured I'd stick it in the corner and my clients could look at it and go, cool. But those videos blew up, which caused me...
They're not going cool. They're going, this is what I'm paying you the extra money for. That thing right there. You use that, right? No. Not usually.
...to make more videos, which caused me to dig through my old recordings and reevaluate the past. And I started live streaming some of my recording sessions, which awakened something inside of me. The energy of having an audience and creating music in the moment. You see, I got into music to be a performing recording artist. I hadn't thought about being a producer or mixer except for my own...
They're like, oh, this is what I'm paying you for, right? You use that, right? Yeah, we're using it right now. They're like looking at it, they're like... It's not plugged in though. Oh, they must have unplugged it while they were cleaning the other day. Those dang maids.
Music. I was having a blast, and I realized that everything I created during the live streams was way better than the things I'd been creating using the kind of workflows we've fallen into over the last 10 or 20 years. And all of that stuff got me thinking about commitment. See, nowadays, if you...
Okay, that's definitely true. There's definitely a thing to be said about commitment. But the thing is, that doesn't make it better, but it just makes you commit to something. It makes you have to be more confident with what you're doing.
Nowadays, if you... Nowadays, if you make a mistake, you just hit undo. But back then, there was no undo. You see, when you would punch in a vocal or anything, it meant that it was going to erase what was previously there. Now, you could always record your fixes to another track, but since most of us were working on 8, 16 track, maybe 24 track, you were going to run out of tracks. You weren't likely to do that. You could record your fixes to another track and bounce them back to the original track, but that would add another layer of noise to the tape. So you were less likely to do that as well. All this...
I think you might be putting too much weight in his purposely provocative YouTube title. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the statement you're making with it, I mean, I guess sometimes things are clickbait, you know? But yeah, I don't know. It depends. Let me hear what you have to say.
Meant that you needed to know what you were going to do and you needed to have your together. But nowadays, we have unlimited undos. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my undos, but I found myself sometimes recording a part so many times that by the time I get it right, it has lost all its soul and energy. And after that...
Okay, that's true, but what if you're not playing it properly at that point?
I'm going back and listening to all these different takes, and I'm putting off making a visceral decision versus a clinical decision, which just takes you away from the gut of the moment and takes time and energy away from getting to the rest of the song, which just starts to affect everything else.
Well, okay, wait, hold on. I feel like there's something else to be said here, though. Because, like, you're gonna have to practice it regardless if you're recording it. Does that not take away, like, some of the original feeling of it? Like, you're gonna be playing it the same amount of times, unless, like, you want to record it with errors. I understand you could take it too far with digital, though. You can record, like, 100 takes and splice them together, and then, I don't know. I just feel like it's not... I don't know. What do you guys think? What are you thinking?
But working in analog forces you to take your art more seriously as a skill or a craft or a commitment. Because when you went to the studio, there was a lot at stake. It was kind of like going to a wedding or an important meeting or going on stage because recording was a performance. Another reason why analog is better has to do with longevity. This is the first computer I recorded and mixed on in the studio. I moved on to a standalone Akai 16-track recorder, but after that...
So much of this is history, man.
It was just a series...
Like, I feel like he watched videos on, like, YouTube retention hacks. And then, like, he's like, oh, yeah, I gotta find a way to, like, space this out to the end of the video. We need to leave, like, an open-ended question.
...of new computers, new operating systems, interface...
Or either that, or he just really likes talking about all this old shit.
...averages out to about one new computer and all the crap that goes along with that every 3 years or so. And there's been the unending and expensive cable upgrades. Some of these SCSI cables cost me $90 each. I've got boxes of all the different types of cables we use to hook up our interfaces to the computers. And there's the whole computer monitor connector evolution. I've got more USB cables than I've got missing socks. We started on floppy drives and moved through a series of very expensive SCSI drives. My first 1 gigabyte hard drive cost $1,000. And because of that, we backed up onto DVDs. Every day, I probably got thousands of these. Later on, we moved to AIT, digital tape backup systems.
Why? Why do we need to know all this?
And their proprietary tape drives. But before long, hard drives became a lot cheaper, so we started backing up onto those. But then they would upgrade the connectors, which meant we had to upgrade our cables, which meant we had to upgrade our computers. A lot of the enclosures would fail, so we started swapping out drives. But many drives died, and now all of this stuff is obsolete.
Okay, that is true. That is true.
And some of this music will never
John.
be recovered.
Oh my god, I'm such a big fan. Say what for me? Say yeah.
There was no longevity. On the other hand, my 16-track reel-to-reel, which still runs...
Well, no, I mean, he does make a point about how analog is better and hard drives die over time.
All the connectors are...
So, because, like, the hard drives are digital.
...are the same connectors we use today. Standard XLR connectors. And my TIAC 3340S 4-track reel-to-reel recorder, which I bought used for $800 when I was 15 years old in 1978, it uses standard RCA connectors. Now, these were not considered by any means the best tape recorders for the time. However, they are robust machines designed to last a lifetime. This thing has been sitting on a shelf at my other studio, The Zone, for almost 30 years, and I brought it up here, I guess a year or so ago, and plugged it in, and it turned on. And I grabbed all these old tapes, I've listened to most
He's talking big, so I take a magnet to his tapes.
of these. These are mostly from the late 70s and 80s. There's a few here I'm not sure if I've gone through. I think it's this one I've not played yet. It's from high school. It's probably 1980, 1981. Oh, and I did not store these tails out back then. I didn't know what that was at the time. So if anybody's wondering why I'm doing it this way, I didn't know about fast forwarding your tapes when you were done and storing them tails out. There are a couple songs in here. I kind of know what they are. I don't know if I'll listen to them. There's one in particular I'm interested in. Let's see. I think this is it.
Hey, it still sounds like Dr. Roxo music to me. I will say that. Doesn't matter what platform or however, whatever medium you're playing it through, it still sounds like Dr. Roxo music. You can't change that.
Hey kids, it's Dr. Roxo! You get up just
Dude, like when I just hear rock music now, like I'm just like, yeah. You don't know about, how do you not know about that? You've never watched Metalocalypse, The Fuzz? You've never watched Metalocalypse? It's from Metalocalypse. He's a rock and roll clown, dude.
This is me, my friend Drew Allen, and our buddy Harry Joyner jamming in my parents' basement. This is...
Bro, like, yeah, every time I hear rock music now, I'm just like, this is Dr. Roxo music. You are missing out. It's a good show. It's a good show.
This recording is 42 years old. I may
It is a good sounding recording, though, okay, if I'm being objective here.
be listening to this 32 years ago, maybe at the latest. This tape is running incredibly smoothly. As I was fast forwarding it out here, it was completely smooth. There's no stickiness coming off.
I agree. Home Movies is better than Metalocalypse. Okay, I wasn't gonna go there though, because Home Movies is, it's a bit more of a deeper cut. You know, not everybody knows about Home Movies. Home Movies is, yeah, that's goated though. I didn't really get Home Movies when I was a kid. They both are good.
Some tapes do get sticky. The Ampex tape that I have that I actually use for most of my career.
Dr. Roxo is just a side character. He's not a main character. So like a majority of Metalocalypse is not Dr. Roxo. He's just like a side character that comes in.
It'll get sticky and it starts to degrade. But if you bake it, there's a process called baking, and I actually made a video about that. It'll
This is supposed to convince me that it's better. I have to bake my fucking tapes. Like, I feel like he made some good points, and then he's like, they're kind of falling apart the more he kind of goes into this.
bind the tape together so you have a couple weeks and you can transfer it into the computer. But seriously, 42 years. I can retrieve this stuff. I can play.
Okay, wait, another thing he didn't really address too about hard drives is like, yes, hard drives do fail, but you can just transfer it to another hard drive. You can have multiple hard drives, and then you just, you know, eventually they'll die, but the thing is you're not losing quality when you do it.
Play it back. There's nothing wrong with this tape right here. Try that with a computer and a hard drive. Of course, I guess it's kind of ironic that I'm recording it into the computer to back it up. Silly, huh? But to me...
Dude, the whole thing falls apart, man. Like, he was making good points, and then, like, the more you go into it, it's just like, well, actually, you know, you do have to back it up. Sometimes you do have to bake them because they get sticky.
The thing that made recording in analog so much better came down to process, how we recorded each day. And these two things that we would do over and over again that I don't think people really think much about, but had a huge impact on our state of minds. And that would be rewinding and changing reels of tape. You see, nowadays, if you got to go back and re-record something or do a punch-in and just repair one section, there's no rewind time. So you can hit stop. Let's do another take. And
Dude, this guy's definitely a little young something here. Little young something. I don't know. I'd be surprised if he wasn't a little young something.
instantly be right back to where you were before and start recording again. Yeah, I think you can punch it out. Here we go. And do it again. Yeah, that was great. Give me another. And do it again. Ooh, I like that one. Give me one more. And again. Here we go. And do it again. But when you were working on analog tape, rewinding back to the beginning of a verse took a little bit longer. And if you were going back to the beginning of the song, there was enough time to catch your breath, get a drink of water, collect your
This
thoughts.
is true.
And if you
This is true. There's nothing that stops you from mimicking the entire workflow in digital. This is true.
needed to jump to another song, you'd have to wind
yeah, I
the
have-
whole reel off the machine.
I have a real checkmate option though here, okay? Here's the real checkmate. You may be recording and cutting it to tape, all right? But people are still listening on their goddamn phone speakers, all right? They're still listening on YouTube videos. I guess although like the sound, the argument is not about sound. But still, like if it was though,
Machine, clean the heads, which you needed to do in between every reel, and then load a whole other reel on. All this took some time. Today, we don't stop. But this nonstop workflow hasn't actually added anything to the quality of my work, and it's contributed to a lack of perspective, which just leads to creative dead ends and a lot of wasted time. So years ago, I started taking lots of teeny breaks throughout the day, and I found that by just stepping away for a few minutes or walking out of the room or going outside, not long enough to get out of the vibe, but just long enough to reset my ears, would make everything clearer.
what does this have to do with the whole analog argument anymore?
And I hit the space bar again. And now that I think about it, maybe I've been trying to recreate the time that we would need to rewind and change reels. I mean, it doesn't matter how fast
Or maybe you just need a break.
or efficient you are with your work, and you know, if you lose perspective why we're doing this, I mean, it is art, it won't matter. The process does have a huge effect on the outcome of your work. So what is the real reason why analog is better? Well, obviously it's not about the sound for me, because I'm gonna find a good way to get the sound.
You can do surgery after the fact with tape, which leads to better musical performances because you have to practice. But the whole thing is like if you have to practice and you're like losing the feeling the more you play it, you're still practicing and losing the feeling. Like if anything, like it just makes you have to perform better, which I mean, you can do that regardless. I'm not saying he's wrong, but I just feel like the arguments are not like super solid.
It's really about the workflow and the commitment to a quality performance. It's also about having that creative space, just a little extra time to think, which is huge. But it's also about the
I don't think you lose feeling with practice, not all the time. Well, one of the arguments you had in the beginning was that the more you have to play it, the more it starts to lose feeling.
machines and the infrastructure. Analog is a reliable and strong system. They still work. You don't have to keep replacing parts over and over again. But if you think about your computers and your operating systems and the software, how much money have you put into that? How many times does it have to be redone? And how many times does it go bad? It's just actually not that reliable. And I feel like we're building a house of cards, and not just for the music industry, but our whole society. I'm not sure we're necessarily headed down the right path in so many ways. But me, I'm just going to keep creating my music, and I hope you will too. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe.
Corny outro. Me, I'm just going to keep making my music, and I hope you do too.
And be unique.
I think you made some good points there. At least on the plus side, this is like a different video. You know, like a lot of times in music production YouTube, I feel like we get the same video over and over, right? And I feel like this is like at least somewhat unique. Like while there is a lot of analog versus digital videos, I feel like the way you presented it was somewhat unique. I didn't really appreciate all the history shit. I think all the history shit you could do without. Yeah, overall though, I think it was pretty unique. Like he was making like kind of somewhat original arguments. We do have to fight a lot of copyright claims while you're reacting to other people's videos. No, not usually. The only time I can't really react to something is fucking Joe Budden. Yeah, he's better than Beato, I agree. He's way better than Beato. Those videos trying to argue in favor of analog always end up pretty much omitting personal preference instead of arguing technical details. Yeah, true. That frame is hilarious. True. That was an accident.